Greetings builders and welcome back to our 12 starter builds for Crucible. This is the final part, and if you missed the previous ones that I released about an hour ago, don't worry, you can find their links in the video description together with the PoE and complete guides for all those builds. Now let's start this final video with this amazing Flicker Strike Slayer with the Duelist class. This build uses Terminus S to sustain the frenzy charges needed for you to keep flickering. It's a great and simple Flicker Strike build for beginners. To list the pros of this build, I will have to say the same things that I already said about other Flicker builds. It's insanely fast, super cool, have an awesome boss damage, and now it also has instant life leech for more survivability. Now to list the cons, I have to say that you are always very close to enemies, which puts you in a vulnerable position. Another issue is that you have little control over your character, making it hard on bosses where you need to mind your position or attack the right enemy. As for budget, I can only estimate it for now, but normally you can get it destroying early endgame maps with only around 80 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, you need to invest around 120 chaos, and for easily completing our Atlas I recommend investing around 4 divines. Don't forget that on PoEbuilds.net you can find a list with all the equipments that you need to buy for this build, with direct links for examples being sold from other players. You only need one mandatory unique item for this build, and it is of course the Terminus S sword that keeps your frenzy charges always up even while flickering. For clear speed, this build is surely a 10 out of 10, and I don't need to say anything else, just take a look at the gameplay and you have to agree with me. The boss damage is great and deserves 9 out of 10. This build easily can deal many millions of damage per second, it's just great to kill bosses like that. Now for the survivability, I'll only give 8 out of 10. Even though this build still has over 100,000 effective HP because of high armor, evasion and spell suppression, I had to take 2 points out for the same reason I did with the Cyclone Slayer and the Inferno Flicker Strike. Since you're always very close to enemies, you're always in a vulnerable position. Now let's talk about one of the best starter builds ever, the Explosive Arrow Champion with the Duelist class. This build uses the Explosive Arrow skill on ballistas to deliver huge ignites that proliferate on your enemies. To list the pros, I would start with how easy this build is to put together. You only need one mandatory unique item and not many other specific rare items. This build is perfect for starting a new league. This build is also very safe to play because with a totem play style, you just need to wait behind while they turn your enemies into ash. Now to list the cons, I would start saying that this build uses fire damage over time. This means that your boss damage will need a lot of investment to be amazing, but don't worry too much about it. You can easily kill map bosses with a low budget. This build is only not recommended for Uber boss farming. As for budget, you can get it destroying early endgame maps with only around 55 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, you need to invest around 120 chaos, and for easily completing your Atlas I recommend investing around 4 divines, but you can totally do it with less. You need only one mandatory unique item for this build, the Diadem Doll Belt, which causes your ignites to deal damage a lot faster. This is great for killing bosses. For clear speed, this build gets 8 out of 10. I took 2 points out because of this delay that the Explosive Arrow has before exploding and proliferating your ignites. This might feel a little clunky, but as you can see, the clear speed is great for farming red maps. The boss damage also gets 8 out of 10. As mentioned before, fire damage over time builds need to invest many divine orbs to have the big single target damage, but this one, even on a low budget, will be able to farm red map bosses without any issue. For the survivability, I'll give it 10 out of 10. This is because we are talking about a totem build where you just need to summon them and wait behind while they destroy and tank everything for you. You just need to mind your position. And above all of that, this build also counts with high armor, evasion and spell suppression, resulting in almost 100,000 effective HP. Finally, we have another awesome build for beginners, the Toxic Rain Raider with the Ranger class. This build uses all the attack speed of Raider to deploy numerous pods that drain the life out of your enemies. To list the pros of this build, I would start with how easy this build is to put together. You don't need any mandatory unique item and the leveling is very simple. This build is great for beginners because you end up having great clear speed, boss damage and survivability with low investment. Now to list the cons, the main issue of this build is mana. Since we're dealing with a damage over time build, we cannot reach mana or life. Because of that issue, we need rare rings that reduce the mana cost of skills. As for budget, you can get it destroying early endgame maps with only around 100 chaos. To comfortable advanced 3 yellow maps you need to invest around 150 chaos, and for easily completing your atlas I recommend investing around 4 divines, but you can totally do it with less. For clear speed this build gets 9 out of 10. As a raider, you already have a lot of movement and attack speed. Also, you only need to deploy the pods once and they will drain surrounding enemies, granting a smooth gameplay. The boss damage also gets 9 out of 10. Combining your strength with Toxic Rain Totems, bosses just drown in countless pods. Even the biggest ones are going to melt like butter before your eyes. For the survivability, I'll give it 9 out of 10. This is because this build has high evasion, high armor and spell suppression. Above all, you can use Toxic Rain from a safe distance and its pods heavily slow down enemies. And that concludes the final part of the 12 starter builds for Crucible. Don't forget that you can find links for the POBs and complete guides in the video description. Now I'd like to wish you all an amazing league start. I'll be back Sunday with a video showing the favorite builds that you voted for on the community tab. Now let's get those passive trees on our weapons and don't forget to keep building.